I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with the approval of the agenda, suggested motions, and resolutions. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda for the February 18th school board meeting?
Motion to approve. Second.
Approved by Prueto, seconded by Thornton. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. As is customary, we start off every meeting with a spotlight on recognition. Tonight, I will turn it over to Dr. Kim Heil, who will share information about our Employee of the Month for February.
Thank you, and good evening, Chair, as well as our school board members. Our employee for the month of February is Blake Cook. We're representing our paraprofessional at Fridley Middle School today. Blake is a true asset to the middle school and to the district. He goes above and beyond to connect with our scholars and form relationships with them. He often works with scholars who are dysregulated and does it with patience and positivity. He listens to the scholars and teachers and is always willing to help out wherever it is needed. He is not only an amazing presence in the middle school, but also can be seen coaching football and basketball at the high school and greeting students at the crosswalk each morning and afternoon. Blake is also working on his special education license, and we hoped he will be teaching in one of our classrooms soon. So congratulations to Blake, and that was written by Amy Cochran, principal of Fridley Middle School.
And I see Blake is with us tonight. Is he not? No, he's not. Okay. Well, congratulations, Blake. Next, we have recognition of some other important people in our district. We have a proclamation for Paraprofessional Recognition Week. Paraprofessionals are a mainstay in every school district, but I will speak specifically for the Fridley School District. They provide amazing support to students and to teachers, and build relationships with kids that help them get through their day and be successful academically as well as socially in our schools. So I will read the proclamation, and the proclamation is by Governor Tim Walz. Whereas Minnesota is home to more than 20,000 paraprofessionals who provide services in multiple settings within schools, including support for instruction, student activities, and for individual students, as well as numerous other tasks that contribute to educational successes. And whereas the support and services provided by paraprofessionals are integral to student achievement, resulting in even better, more effective Minnesota schools. And whereas the state of Minnesota and the Minnesota Department of Education are committed to excellence in education and recognize the important role that paraprofessionals play in ensuring educational successes. And whereas the Minnesota Department of Education will celebrate the contributions of paraprofessionals during Paraprofessional Recognition Week, which runs from January 27th through January 31st. Now, therefore, I, Tim Walz, Governor of Minnesota, do hereby proclaim the week of January 27th through January 21st as Paraprofessional Week. So we would like to recognize and thank all of our paraprofessionals. Next, I'd like to invite up, we'll have superintendent and staff reports, and I'd like to invite up Amy Cochran and Christopherian Deans. We've got a report on the middle school, and we even have props.
Good evening, Board Chair Delvo, board members, Superintendent Heil. I'm Amy Cochran, principal at the middle school, and with me I have Christopher Aaron Deans, assistant principal. So we're just going to share some updates from the middle school this year, just some highlights and some things that are new. Last school year we had a lot of changes, and so talked through kind of what a lot of the changes were, and just wanted to do some kind of highlights and things that are new this year in the middle school. So first, just with our academics, Last school year, we moved a huge change in our 5th grade. So just for those of you that don't know, our 5th grade used to look like a middle school, and students had a middle school schedule. And last year, we moved to a elementary style classroom for our 5th graders. And so those students are now 6th graders this year. So we made a change for 6th grade. 5th grade hadn't went so well. The change this year in 6th grade, we wanted to kind of maximize what we had going with our 5th graders, and so really cut down on that passing time. And so basically what 6th grade looks like this year is that teachers are teaming in twos, and they share the same students, and they each teach 2 subject areas. And so that gives students less transition time in their day, more time on academics. And then something else that we added this year was a focused math class in 6th grade. So we've always had a focused literacy that really is able to drill down into what students need. And this year we added a focused math class. So that is the one time of their day that they're not with their core teacher, one of their team teachers, but yet it's really focused on where they're at. So they can get some really individualized instruction. It's a really awesome opportunity for our 6th graders who need accelerated math. They're working on those 7th grade math skills. Also a really great opportunity for students that need a little extra help in math to get those extra skills. So we're seeing some great success with that so far this year. And then 2 other kind of changes academically this year. AVID is not new to our building. We have been AVID elective classes for our 7th and 8th graders, 2 sections in 7th grade and 2 sections in 8th grade. And that is a elective class that they can take in place of one of their other elective or their encore classes. But this year we moved to AVID building-wide, which means 5th through 8th grade, all students are specifically focusing on the organizational pieces of AVID. And so the big piece with the organization is the binders for all. So if students 5th through 8th grade have binders, we really focus on binder checks, using a planner, really helping students be organized, and have seen great success leading that straight up to the high school. And so starting it in 5th grade, it just kind of becomes part of what they do in Fridley. And then also something else that's really exciting is we added in a new class in their encore classes called College and Career Readiness. And so this year, students are getting 1 semester of design. So they do a lot of assessing the design cycle. So they're coming up with problems, evaluating the problems and coming up with solutions and working through the design cycle. And then they get a semester of this College and Career Readiness class. So it's a really great opportunity for students to focus on looking ahead. They're bringing guest speakers. I actually just saw today she confirmed the University of Iowa is going to come next week and speak to all of our 8th graders. So a really awesome way for us to bring in colleges and really bring in some people that are in different careers to speak to students, have them do a little bit of looking ahead. And that is 5th through 8th grade also. So kind of unlike AVID, that's really kind of college career focused. This is really for all students to be able to have that opportunity to really focus on college and careers.
Good evening. Oh, you guys are quiet tonight.
We're kind of shy.
My name is Christopher Arendines, assistant principal over at the middle school, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about our student supports that are happening. We have the restorative practices. We've been engaging in a lot with our staff and students. We've done a lot of really great training with our staff, but particularly with the students, we have a restorative team that's called the Peacemakers. And the restorative team is a team of 7th and 8th graders that do mediations with 5th and 6th graders. At this point, we have about 30 mediations that's been done, but we have a lot of very in-depth training happening with these young people. This work is dealing with equity. This work is dealing with social-emotional learning. This work is dealing with building, holding, and teaching social capital, relationship development. It's really great stuff that's happening with these young people. These mediations are really helping to coach our young people how to have different views and perceptions of how to resolve conflict. Both those that are partaking, those that have done the conflict and harm, and those that have been harmed. And those young people are learning how to troubleshoot the question that they always get, so what are you going to do about it? And far too often in middle school and elementary school, you hear them say, well, I don't know, because adults tell them what they need to do. Well, you'll be suspended now. You're going to go into the detention room. students are able to actually make those decisions on their own. This is very valuable work that needs to happen. We have an African American male student group where we have 16 African American males that are engaging in a lot of work that deals with their identity and self-placement so that they can actually know who they are in their spaces in education and know how to govern themselves appropriately and advocate for their academics. It's really great stuff happening. We have Random Acts of Kindness. That is a program that was started last year, but it was specifically for 5th grade, I think, at that time. It is school-wide now. And what happens is students will do something that's pretty cool or nice or just, kind. And someone will recognize that and they'll actually write about it and give it to Mary Jo, one of our special ed teachers who leads the work. And we make this big announcement. We make a really big deal out of it during our lunches so everyone gets to hear about it. There's prizes involved. It's a pretty cool thing. And then the last thing that's happening is our solution room. So like traditionally, a lot of schools have take a break space or a detention room or these types of things. We're looking to reset students' behavior and have them give an opportunity to take a minute to reflect on what has happened. And there are specific targeted questions that ask them open-ended questions to help them think about what their actions are and how those actions impacted those around them. And then they go back to class. So, thank you.
Oh, geez, me either. Apparently I know how to shut it off. Okay. Again, so those are just some of like the new student support services that we have in our building this year. Something that is not new to us. We are in our 6th year of our PBIS or our Tiger Grit at the middle schools, as it's known by. One of the challenges with PBIS is really continuing.
Can you spell out the acronym for our audience?
Oh yeah, Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports, PBIS.
Thank
and really, typically once schools get going with PBIS, you don't necessarily ever hear them refer to their whatever they have it as the PBIS. So for us, it's Tiger Grit. So everything you hear students talk about at the middle school is Tiger Grit. I know at the high school it's I Belong. But one of the challenges with it is really keeping students bought into it, because once you've been doing it for a while, you have to keep students bought into the idea that we acknowledge these positive behaviors and that we're really kind of always talking about what students are doing right. And so constantly coming up with new ideas, thinking about what we can do to keep students bought into it. So a couple of pictures up here. One, you see a matrix. We have those posters hanging around the school. Really that it spells out the GRIT. So G is give respect, R responsibility, I integrity, and T thinking first. And so everything we do at the middle school is centered around each one of those areas. So how do we think first in the hallways? How do we think first in the classroom? How do we think first in the cafeteria? So really making sure that students understand what the behavior expectations are is kind of step one. And then next to it, we got a new school store last year, the year before. But one of the things we really worked hard on this year is revamping it. And so really coming up with things that students would be really bought into. So they get little Tiger Grit tickets, and essentially they can bring their Tiger Grit tickets to the store and spend their tickets at the store. And so making sure that we have items in there that are that middle schoolers want. And having 5th graders and 8th graders, there's kind of a big discrepancy. And so our 5th and 6th graders, very bought into the store, very excited about it. They make weekly trips there as a class, walking down there, and we have our 8th grade students running it when they come down. So it's a really great opportunity to get a lot of students involved. Getting 7th and 8th graders bought into it is a little more tricky. There's certainly, you can see some basketballs and footballs and things that they really want to buy. But one of the things students are absolutely dying to do is to get into the gym. And so we just put into place where 7th and 8th graders can save up their grit tickets and they can buy themselves open gym time for 50 grit tickets. So that's been a huge hit. And we do that on Friday during homeroom. So they can come, instead of going to homeroom, they can come out of homeroom and they can buy themselves into the gym to have 20 minutes of gym time. So that's been a huge success to get our 7th and 8th graders bought in. And so continuing to try to be creative of how we what we think about is how we get students to continue to want to talk about Tiger Grit and utilize it. And assemblies is another thing we kind of do continuously throughout the year. Also next to it, you see our behavior continuum, and this is something we rolled out last school year. And so one of the things when we started PBIS is that we didn't really have a way for teachers to know which behaviors were classroom managed versus which things were office managed. And so in the past, teachers had the ability to send students out of class really kind of for any reason. There was really no guideline around that. And so because of that, our data is really, if I looked at from year one of PBIS data to right now PBIS data, it looks like about a 99% reduction of everything. But I know that that's not, I mean, the data is a little skewed because for the first 4 years, 3 years, we didn't have any way to track the difference between them. So this is exciting. We had a group of teachers work on this. We rolled it out last school year. And then this year, we've just spent a lot of time tweaking it. So basically, the color coding up there this is for teachers, not for students. So students don't ever see this. Essentially, the red means it's classroom managed. I cannot send a student out of the classroom for that. I really need to work through with lots of supports. And so what are my classroom management strategies? And then what are my support systems that I have in place? We have some really specific training around if they do need to send a student out, here's kind of the steps they go through. And then we have the solutions room or the reset room is where students can go. And then the yellows and the greens are things we call D3 or D4, things that are like really detrimental to learning, things that are safety concerns, that certainly would be office managed and things that could come to the office right away. So the one data point that we do have is looking at referrals in year 3 to 4 where we did not have this continuum. We had about a 33% reduction in those referrals. Again, starting last year now, we could start tracking that data forward and be able to really track like how much are we seeing a difference in reduction of both referrals and suspensions.
I have a question about
Yeah.
that. Will you be able to see now that you have, this is classroom managed, this is office managed, are you able to track if there's a reduction in classroom management?
Yes, which
as
we didn't
well?
have before because we also didn't have like the solutions room, so we didn't have like a place where we call those D1, D2, so the lower level behaviors. We didn't really have a way to track that. And so this last year and this year, we really have a way to start tracking those. And PBIS actually really encourages that when you're going, like when you're really setting your systems up, they encourage you to figure out a way. They call them major and minors. We call them D1, 2s, and 3s and 4s, but essentially the same thing. And we just never had that system figured out before. So it's taken us about 5 years to get there of really like, what pieces of PBIS are we missing? We're really solid on the expectations and really teaching it to students, and we were kind of missing that piece of it. So that is definitely a piece of PBIS that we've recently added.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then the last piece is just this year we really have been focusing on ways to get teachers kind of bought in and like really owning something in the school. So this has been really fun for us. You know, oftentimes secondary teachers kind of get siloed into their own little areas. And so I only work with my 5th grade colleagues or my 6th grade colleagues, and they don't often have a lot of time to do like kind of cross grade level, cross subject area work. So this is one way that we've really been able to do that, and it's been really fun. So each teacher was able to select a committee that they're working on this year, and then they kind of really bring that to life. So just different things that they've been engaged in is the student engagement and staff engagement. So things from really engaging staff and doing fun activities around the holidays. They're working right now, those 2 committees together, on doing a staff-student basketball game, like against one another. We have an assessment and grading and reporting committee, really focusing on our community service and action. So the teachers are really engaged, again, another way to kind of get them across grade level, and then another great way, all these amazing things going on in our building, and we're really seeing the results of the different committees in our building. All right, and then with me tonight, I brought 2 students. So our 6th graders just finished our 6th grade Inventors Fair. And so some of you may have visited the Inventors Fair. So our 6th graders work really hard on coming up with a new invention. So they kind of create, again, thinking about that design cycle, they really kind of start from the beginning. What's a problem? They come up with the solution. And so I have Addie with me tonight. She is going to present her project.
Hi, my name is Addison Alshire, and today I will be telling you about my invention, Swap. Swap is short for Stripes with a Purpose. Stripes with a Purpose are individual stripes for your Adidas that come in many different colors and patterns, and you can swap them out for different colors or patterns at any time to change up your look. For example, if I was wearing blue stripes to school to match my outfit, then I could swap them out after school for black and gold stripes for a Fridley football game. I came up with Stripes with a Purpose because one day I was wearing a yellow shirt and the stripes of my Adidas were rose gold. In my opinion, those 2 colors do not go together. So I figured that I couldn't be the only person in the world with that problem. I thought that making stripes that you could swap out could not only help you match your outfits, but could also save you and your parents lots of money. Instead of spending money on Adidas just to wear them occasionally, you could buy these stripes for a lot less money and wear them for your Adidas all the time. A couple positives that I had with the process of designing my project were that you could show your uniqueness and individual style, represent a sports team, and save money. A couple issues that occurred during the process of designing my project were that these stripes could only work with the Adidas Adicolor shoe. It is a shoe that has slits in it to put different colored stripes in. The stripes that go with it are heat adhesive and stay on for 3 to 6 months, but the stripes that I invented are kind of like that, but you can swap them out as many times a day as you wanted to. Any questions?
How do we get a pair?
A sophomore in high school who would love one of those. Right?
That's a great idea. Good project.
So if you've not been to the 6th grade Inventors Fair next year, put it on your calendar. It's a pretty amazing event. All students with all of their projects throughout the cafeteria, and they're presenting all the different things that they've come up with. And there is some really creative inventions that they come up with, things that we were like, how do we get that for real?
Yeah.
All right, I also have with me Alan, and he is an 8th grader who is just found out today that he's been advanced to regionals for his History Day project. So super exciting. We'll help him.
Congratulations. Big board.
Just stand up here. You want to come on this side by the, oh. So National History Day is a very, very large event again, and if it's not a night you've been to in Fridley, it is definitely probably my most favorite night at the middle school of all times. It is to see students engaged in their academics and be so proud of their work. They work over the course of 2 months. They spend time at the U of M, going to the library. They spend time in both their language arts class and their individuals and societies class, so it's a really great way that they're working together with multiple subject areas. They spend obviously a ton of time because majority of the projects come out looking like this. Kids really do invest a ton of time and energy. And then they get judged, and so that the evening of History Day night, which we had 53 volunteers this year that came and judged History Day, students then present to the judges. Judges can ask questions. Students really have to be experts on their topics, and then they find out if they advance to regions. From there, they have the opportunity to advance to state, and it can eventually go national. So it's a pretty large event. So I'm going to turn it over to Alan to present his project.
Okay, my project is about Vostok 1 and Yuri Gagarin, the pilot of Vostok 1. It is the first manned space flight, and it was held by the Soviets. And I think the main thing I tried to convey about my topic is that most people think NASA were the first people in space, and it was actually Russia. And they were ahead in the space race most of the time until Apollo came about. They had launched the first satellites, the first spaceships, and lots of other things. That's a lot of it. And the theme this year was breaking barriers, so our topic had to go with that. And well, I thought a space theme would be kind of fun because there's lots of advancements in space. So I went and looked into some topics that may be interesting for space, and I never have heard about this one, and I asked some of my friends and they have never either. So I thought I'd make a project about it to show other people and learn about it myself. And I believe that it goes with the theme because he broke the physical barrier from the atmosphere into space, and also the barrier made between the US and the USSR. I picked the color scheme with the dark blue, the white, and the black because it kind of reminded me of space. And yeah, some of the questions the judge asked me were like how it conveys to the theme, and I already kind of went into that. They asked me how I came up with the topic, and I already explained that as well. But I think one of the main things they asked me and I didn't know how to respond to was, if you did it over again, what would you do? And honestly, I don't know if I would redo everything, but I might have taken a little bit more time to cut the stuff a little better, but it's not that noticeable. Another thing they asked me what were some of my important sources, and I'd say that every single one of my sources were very important to the project, as I took lots of time to find the correct sources instead of adding information I believed was useless. So I did have an annotated bibliography and a process paper, but I don't have it with me right now explaining some of that. But yeah, I think if I can remember the exact thing, it was from NASA, and they gave exact details of launch dates, delays, and whatnot. Do you guys have any other questions about my topic?
I'm curious if it launched you in the direction of being interested in space travel, or if it was just it was great information to know and you're moving on.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been too interested in space. I mean, I always thought it was pretty cool, but I kind of wanted to do Apollo 13 or 11 like everyone else, but I wanted to do something different as well. So that's why I went and I looked into other types of projects, and I'm glad with my choice, and I think it turned out really well.
Well, we think so too.
Thank you.
Excellent. Good luck at regionals.
Do you guys have any questions for me?
What was the date of regionals? Did you say that?
Oh, do you know the date of I don't know the exact date. I don't know yet. We just found out who the winners were this afternoon, so.
Oh, okay.
How many kids do you have that are going? Do you know? Oh, sorry.
No, I just actually asked Alan tonight, I'm like, did you find out yet, or did I find out before you? Because I wasn't sure if they'd been announced. About 30 people being advanced.
Okay, so this is really hot off the press.
Yeah, absolutely, this afternoon.
All right. We'll look for more news on that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I would just like to make a comment on the earlier part of your presentation, if that's all right. I'm just really, really excited about the work that you're doing and the coaching with kids to help them find their own solutions. That is just so critical. And when I think about employers and the challenges that employers are having, those are issues that these kids who are learning these skills now will be rock stars for them, because that's what they're finding is kids aren't learning. Some of their employees aren't bringing their own answers. They're looking for someone to tell them what to do, and if they don't have an instruction, they don't know what to do. And so I just really commend you on that work and want to see that expand.
Us
with
too. I think we will,
students
and we've been doing a ton
everywhere.
of staff development with our teachers, and with our 7th and 8th graders, and we'll continue to just grow those teams.
Yeah.
So.
And also on the responsiveness and changes you're continuing to make at the middle school, that you're continuing to build on those, and happy to see that.
Thank you.
I agree.
Thanks.
Good job.
All right, Dr. Heil has a Fridley Schools Foundation video and some information to share.
Yes, we just wanted to share with the board this evening. The Fridley Schools Foundation Gala was held on January 30th and was very successful. So this video was shared at the gala that evening, so we would like to share this information with the board tonight.
The Fridley community has a rich history of supporting its schools and students in a number of ways. The Fridley Schools Foundation is an important part of this tradition of giving. Now in its 21st year, the foundation has helped students, staff, and families enjoy enhanced educational opportunities by putting your donated dollars to work.
The Fridley Schools Foundation grant provided the middle school with the opportunity to begin our makerspace. A makerspace is a place that's typically found in a library. The goal is to be able to provide materials and machines and technology that would be prohibitive for an individual or a household to have. Things like a lathe or a 3D printer or a recording studio. They'll be able to come in, see how it works, learn more about it, and then try it for themselves.
Money helps us buy books to practice reading. It also buys toys we can play with in the gym. Even my friends in wheelchairs can join too and have fun.
Y estamos aquí junto con Cindy, que es nuestra intérprete en este programa de ECFE. Hey Jorge, ¿qué te ha parecido?
No, está excelente. Mira, lo que se ha significado para nosotros es una ayuda increíble.
This has been an incredible class. It has helped us so much.
Especialmente para entender un poco a nuestros hijos.
Especially to learn a little more about our children.
Y estamos muy contentos de que la fundación nos permite tener esta clase a muy bajo costo.
We're happy because the funds from the foundation enable us to have a class at a lower cost that we can afford.
Did you know that money from the foundations help buy garden tools and materials? At my school, we have a garden that helps us learn about nature and how to protect the environment. We also learn how the plants we put in the ground are helping to clean the water going back into the Mississippi River.
The Fridley Foundation paid for 2 woodworking lathes for our students in the woodworking classes at Fridley High School to use. Every student is able to make a pen, and that's usually their first project. We've had students make baseball bats, bowls, plates, ornaments. Having 2 extra lathes lets more students have the opportunity to use a lathe and gather that experience.
The foundation raises money by holding fundraisers like walkathons and its annual Black and Gold Gala. The Fridley Alumni Choir holds a holiday concert benefit every year, providing money for scholarships. Some people even choose to contribute privately each year, but we could always use more help.
The Fridley Schools Foundation grant has helped out with the Hey Girls Mentorship Program. This program is for girls grades 5 through 7th. During the Hey Girls Mentorship Program, we tackle issues such as self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-care, all of these things that contribute to academic success. With your support, we are able to provide food, journal books, scholarships for other girls to attend the program, and materials for group activities.
Because of your generosity, over 400 graduating seniors have received more than $500,000 in scholarship for college in the past 6 years. In 2019 alone, over 70 students received more than $120,000 toward their continuing education. As we prepare for college and career, it's people like you that make it possible for Fridley students to have experiences and opportunities to expand our horizons. Your gifts to the Fridley Schools Foundation help build the futures of our students.
They will be able to try new technology, see new things, and be able to learn about things that maybe they've only seen online before.
Your contributions have allowed my students to have new experiences in my woodworking shop.
Gracias.
Thank you for all you do to help Fridley students.
Thank you for giving.
Thank you for your donation. To make a donation to the Fridley Schools Foundation, please visit our website at fridleyschoolsfoundation.org.
Thank you for sharing that. Certainly, community is certainly supportive of our district, and if you didn't have an opportunity to attend the annual Fridley Schools Foundation Gala, it's really a wonderful evening of just community celebration and then giving back. So look for that for next year, the end of January, and but you can give anytime. So next we'll move on to some more financial discussion, and I invite Brady Hoffman to the podium to review the revised budget presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Delvo, members of the school board, Dr. Heil. It is that time of the year where we're going to revise our current year budget. I have a little bit of a PowerPoint I'll go through, and then later on in the meeting there is a motion to approve the revision. So back in June is when the original adopted budget was approved. Per statute, you must adopt the budget prior to the start of the next fiscal year. So at the time of adopting the budget, there are always more unknowns. And so you're going off of assumptions and things you're still projecting out. So since the budget was approved, we've completed our FY19 audit, our fiscal year 2019 audit. We've onboarded new staff. We've welcomed new students to the 1920 school year. We started negotiations with some of our contract groups, and then we've also been annualizing our enrollment trends, reviewing our current year enrollment projections, as well as looking at last year's budget actual results and how things are trending this year. So that top section is the budget that was approved originally back in June. So in that process of since we approved the budget till now, some of the assumptions that have changed, we've been adjusting our tax levy. So some of those revenues are, the way the levy cycle works is if it's the board certifies it in, let's say, calendar 2018, the taxpayers pay it in calendar 2019. So that's our 1920 revenue. There are a few levy items that get advance recognized. So we didn't know those amounts until this past December. So we make those adjustments. Our federal revenues, we've modified those budgets a little bit based on funding available. And then our state aids have been adjusted as more data is current and as enrollment projections are trued up, those revenue projections get adjusted. On the revenue and the expense side, we are incorporating student activity budgets for revenues and expenses. These previously were not part of the general fund. There was a new Government Accounting Standards Board Statement number 84 that changed that requirement, so now those flow through the general fund. Those funds are restricted, so if a student activity account has a balance carrying forward, it stays with that activity. On the expenditure side, we looked at the variances from the prior year audit, and then as we know of staffing changes and as things happen, we are adjusting those budgets as well. On the enrollment side, we are increasing our projected enrollment from the adopted 2801 to 2828. Historically, we will start the year higher and lose kids throughout the year, and so far year to date, we're maintaining. So that's a good positive trend to see. We are very consistent with where we started the year. So this shows our enrollment trend since the 2012-13 school year. So as we've talked about before, from 2013-14 up to 2016-17, we saw a pretty good increase in our enrollment. A lot of that was open enrollment related, and then we had a couple years where we've lost. So the pendulum kind of swung. We had to make some reactions and adjustments to accommodate that. But as you can see, where we ended last year now and where we're projecting for this year is almost flat. So it's a nice change to that trend. It's something that's good to see as opposed to another decline. So this is our general fund summary. So whenever we approved the budget back in June, we had projected an unassigned fund balance percent, that's down on the bottom right. When we adopted the budget, it was 7.05%, and the revision takes us to 7.25. So the board minimum policy is 7%. So through the budget revision, which increases our revenue $290,000 and our expenses $240,000, through the revision we're improving our projection by about $52,000. But after the audit was done, we actually had a more favorable result. So our starting point is also higher than where we had projected. So the beginning column is in a better position as well. So those two pieces have led to a little bit better fund balance position here in the general fund. But this is there's a full page summary in the board packet with this as well. But it walks through your beginning fund balance, what's budgeted, and then what your ending fund balance would be as well. And these are the fund balance categories of unassigned, assigned, restricted, and non-spendable. Within the other funds, the only other fund that we have a revision for tonight is within the food service fund, and it's just about a $7,000 adjustment to the good related to some interdepartmental chargebacks. So we kind of trued some of those up a little bit, so it's a little bit of a benefit to the food service fund there. All other funds remain the same in our revision. Across the board, the fund balance will go up $244,000. Largest piece of that is in the debt service fund. So we are required to levy 105% of what our annual debt payments are. Because with tax collections, in the event that we don't have full collections, we still have collected enough to be good on our obligations. So as that fund balance would grow in the debt service fund, there is a mechanism in the levy process that actually give that back to the taxpayers, so we don't get to use it for other purposes as a debt excess adjustment. So with that, that's the revision before you. I'll open it up for any questions. Otherwise, the motion is later on in the meeting.
Are there any questions for Mr. Hoffman? I just want to commend administration on the management of these funds. I know we had to make some cuts when enrollment drops off. You know, each student comes with a certain level of funding from the state, and when the enrollment drops off, you know, we can only predict, but we can't control that. And so you've done a really nice job of truing up and keeping us in a good financial status, despite some things we can't control.
Thank you.
Now we move on to the business action items portion of our meeting, and we have a resolution for School Board Recognition Week, and our presenter is Dr. Heil.
Thank you, Chair Devil and school board members. It's with pleasure MSBA recognizes School Board Recognition Week. So I shall read it. Whereas Fridley School District 14 recognizes the importance of public education in our community, and whereas Fridley School District 14 appreciates the vital role played by those individuals who as local school board members establish policies to ensure an efficient and effective school system, and whereas school board members serve as the voice that enables our community to preserve local management and control of our public schools. And whereas school board members are charged with representing our local education interests to state and federal government and ensuring compliance with state and federal laws. And whereas school board members selflessly devote their knowledge, time, and talents as advocates for our school children. Whereas local school board members are strong advocates for public education and are responsible for communicating the needs of the school district to the public and the public's expectation to the district. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Fridley School District 14 recognizes and salutes the members of the Fridley School District 14 School Board by proclaiming February 17th through the 21st of 2020 as School Board Recognition Week. We'd like to acknowledge you, and I'll hand each one of you a certificate, as well as you have a cookie at your spot.
For those of you, it's gold, like our colors. Next up, we have a resolution accepting gifts. Each month, we accept any donations, contributions that came into the school district over the previous month. And so therefore be it resolved that the School Board of Fridley Public Schools accepts with appreciation the following gifts received by the school district. The following persons donated to Hayes Elementary School for a total of $148.60. An anonymous donor, Deanna Roth, and Eurofins Sensory Consumer. The following persons donated to Fridley Middle School for a total of $70, Stephanie Sharp Kaisia and Wendy Zhang. And the following persons donated to Fridley High School for a total of $590, Allison Hoff, Stephanie Sharp Kaisia, and Patrick McCoy. Do I have a motion to accept the gifts and donations?
Second.
Moved by Stark, seconded by Adam. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carried. And I will invite Mr. Hoffman back up to the podium for our revised budget. He has another report, and then when you're done, then we'll go over a motion to approve the revised budget.
Chair Devil, members of the school board, Dr. Heil. In the packet is the kind of more of the narrative, the formal recommendation for approval with the narrative of the budget assumptions incorporated within and what those ending fund balance amounts are, and where it kind of trends us to. And then that one-page document that shows our fund balance activity, projected fund balances for the year. So if there aren't any questions, I would turn it over to the board for approval.
Do I have a motion to approve the revised budget for 2019-2020?
Motion to approve. Second.
Pruedo, seconded by Thornton. And this is a resolution, so clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Mr. Adams?
It's just a recommendation.
Ms. Delvo?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's just a motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Just seeing if you're awake over there. We do need you to call the roll for the accepting of gifts because that was a resolution.
Mr. Adams?
Aye.
Ms. Delvo?
Aye.
Mr. Carnop?
Aye.
Ms. Perito?
Aye.
Ms. Stark?
Aye.
Ms. Thornton?
Aye.
Resolution passed. Resolution for accepting gifts passed and motion passed for the revised budget. My apologies for the confusion. Now we have another motion for the approval of the 2019 through 2021 Fridley Education Association, or FEA, contract agreements and memorandums of understanding. And I invite Ike Isaacson to the podium.
Good evening, Board Chair Delvo, school board members, Superintendent Dr. Heil, and greetings, Student Representative Ms. Nolan. I don't have a cookie for you, but I have something hopefully equally attractive.
Well.
We're pleased to affirm the district and the Fridley Education Association reached an agreement regarding the terms and conditions of their employment. You have a full agreement in the board packet, but I'd like to touch on just a couple of the highlights. We did agree to steps on the salary schedule. Salary schedule and Schedule C increase the first year of 1.25% and year 2 of 1.5%. We increased the 403B match in years 2021. We also updated our bereavement language, broadening the definition of family in a less ethnocentric sort of way. We eliminated 2 steps from a 6-step discipline process, and we have multiple memorandums of agreement that are addressing some temporary needs we have to accommodate some compromises meeting the needs of the district and the FEA. The FEA has ratified the agreement, and unless there's any questions, we present the agreement to the board for their approval.
Are there any questions from the board? I just want to say thank you for your work and also for the FEA leadership. It was a very collaborative process and lots of really good discussion in coming to this agreement. So
Thank you. It was an honor.
Do I have a motion to approve the Fridley 2019 through 2021 Fridley Education Association Agreement and Memorandums of Agreement?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Approved by Carnop, seconded by Stark. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously. Now I invite John Piotrowski and Stephen Keeler. You're ahead of the game, already up to the microphone. I love that efficiency. We have some second readings and adoption of policies, so if you could update us on those.
So good evening, Board Chair Delvo, board members, Superintendent Heil, and Student Representative Ms. Nolan. Nice to see you. So second reading for Policy 619, Staff Development. There are no changes from first reading.
Board Chair Delvo, board members, Ms. Nolan and Dr. Heil. I have Policy 902 in front of me today, and I have no changes since the first reading.
Okay. And we invite up Jael McLemore for some additional policies, second readings.
Yeah, I have 3 of them. Policy 903 is our policy that sets guidelines and procedures governing visits to district schools, facilities, and property. There are no additional changes from our first reading. Policy 904 is the school board's policy on distribution of materials on school district property by non-school persons and organizations. And this just sets the guidelines of how external individuals and organizations can promote their materials to our students, our parents, and our staff. And there are no additional changes from the first reading. And the last one is sort of related to the 904. This is 905 on advertising. And this is the school board's policy that provides guidelines for the advertising or promoting of products and services to students and parents in the schools. There are no additional changes from the first reading.
All right. With that, do I have a motion to accept the second reading and adoption of policies 619, 902, 903, 904, and 905?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Pareto, seconded by Thornton. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carried unanimously. Now we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes routine action items, including minutes of the regular school board meeting and work session, which were held on January 21st, 2020, monthly financial reports, new contracts, amendments, leaves of absence, terminations, resignations, and retirements, the Indian Education Parent Committee resolution, and MDE user access recertification for Lori Andler and Dr. Kim Heil as identified official with authority. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with those items in it?
Second.
Moved by Adams, seconded by Stark. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carried unanimously. Now I invite Laura Seifert-Hertling and Ike Isaacson to the microphone to review some first readings of policies.
Good evening, Board Chair Devil, members of the school board, Superintendent Heil, and our new student representative. It's very fun to have you. Tonight I have 4 policies for first reading. The first policy is Policy 414, mandated reporting of child neglect or physical or sexual abuse. And the only change that we added to that policy was just including the actual Minnesota statutes right into the policy. So those are the only things that we kind of looked at putting into that policy for review for the first reading. Policy 415 is very similar. It's a new policy that we would like to add, and it's the same as mandated reporting, but it's for vulnerable adults, and we do have an 18 to 21 transition program within our school district, so that's a policy that we would like to consider. Policy 506, student chemical misuse procedure. This was a policy, it was a .1, and really it talks about procedures. So I would like to just talk about considering removing that and putting that as more of a procedure and not have that as a part of the policy. And then policy 506, student discipline, is a policy that looks like it has a lot of changes, but what we did is we took some of the new language from the MSB model policies, so Minnesota School Board Association, the model policies, and took that and added the statutes that come from the state that are into that policy, and just kind of reformatted it. Then we also just made a few changes to add what our district practices. For instance, the model policy had Saturday school, which Fridley Public Schools doesn't have Saturday school. So those are just some of the things to consider for the first readings this evening for those 4 policies.
Again, good evening, Board Chair Delville, school board members, Superintendent Dr. Heil, and again, greetings, Student Representative Ms. Nolan. I present to you the first reading of Policy 522, Student Sex Non-Discrimination. 2 changes are noted. Section 2C, striking of the title Director of Special Services and replacing that with the title of Director of Human Resources. And the other change is in Section 3D, striking the name and email address of the prior Human Resources Director and replacing that with the current Director's name and address.
Just so those watching understand the process, we discuss the first reading of policies in our work session and then have them read here and then have the month until our next board meeting to make further changes, absorb them, and have discussion about that. And then they'll come back for a second reading on the next scheduled board meeting. So thank you.
Thank you.
Now we move to reports from our school board members. Our school board members, in addition to sitting on the Fridley School Board, represent the Fridley School District on a number of committees and boards throughout the state and region that affect our work here. So the first, I'm sorry, my screen just blacked out, so I have no, I have no agenda. Thank you. Dr. Heil, Schools for Equity in Education.
Thank you. I attended Schools for Equity in Education meeting that was held on January 24th. And at that meeting, we had Dr. Lori Hellman, who's the director of Minnesota Center for Reading Research. And she presented on how to effectively teach kids to read and what leaders need to know. So some of the basics that was shared there, which we probably may all know, was the importance of vocabulary. And we've always been told that it's very important for us to read to children, but she was just basically saying the importance is also just holding conversation. It's very important for kids. They pick up languages early, so of course they're going to pick up their home language, another language early. So making sure students hear multiple different words a day, have conversations with adults, and that will help with their reading. The second comment that was shared was the need for additional training of teaching secondary teachers how to help students read. Generally, how to read and phonics and things like that are taught to elementary teachers. So we're looking at the college level now to see what kind of training we can do in colleges that help as well secondary teachers on those students that are still struggling, learning how to read by the time they are in secondary. The second part, we had two representatives from the legislators. So we had Senator Carla Nelson and Representative Cheryl Yoakim. They spoke on their current work. And I will wait for Director Stark can speak more on this because they shared the same information at the AMSD update. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Heil. Next report is from Northeast Metro 916 board meeting, and I'll be presenting on that. Fridley's district is a member of the 916 district. It's our special education district, and they also have an ALC and some career and technical education programming there as well. In the month of January, Fridley had 33 students enrolled in the 916 district programs and one on the wait list. Just kind of for background, the district as a whole has 568 students, and the 916 district is made up of 14 member districts. One of those districts, however, just gave, the St. Francis School District just gave their notice of intent to terminate their membership. So their board is considering withdrawing from the 916 district, and you have to give an 18-month notice. Nothing will, it will not terminate until the end of the 2021 school year because they have students enrolled there now, and so there's a long transition process on how to handle that, and then what the impact of that is on the other member districts in that school. Cambia Hills is a new inpatient mental health hospital that was recently built in the St. Francis School. It's located in the St. Francis School District. And it will start school on March 22nd. They will hold their first classes there. So it's a new service. It's going to give another option for inpatient mental health services for youth, which is very much needed in our state. 916 district is providing all the educational services for the Cambia Hills Inpatient Mental Health Hospital. So they will have educational service. They'll have 10 teachers and 23 educational assistants, that 916 employees that will be working there. And they have 15 to 19 floor staff on evenings and weekends to help out with education on the weekends while students are placed there. So that's a really exciting opportunity, both for our state, but also for the 916 district. They have a program visit at the Bel Air Educational Center and the 916 Montemedi Academy on February 26th. And if folks are interested in touring those facilities, they can contact Linda Zarodka at 916. We also purchase, so all the member districts have the option to do joint purchasing on a variety of different products, contracts through the 916 membership. So we, by going in mass, we can get things cheaper. And the Fridley district spent $58,000 in contracts with joint purchasing and received discounts on that because of that opportunity. So that's another benefit of our membership in 916. And I believe that is it for me. Next up, Association of Metropolitan School Districts, AMSD is the acronym, and our presenter is Ivana Stark.
The meeting this month hosted the 2020 legislative preview. There were multiple state legislators in attendance, and there was a panel featuring Representative Cheryl Yoakim, Representative Sandra Erickson, Senator Chuck Uyghur, and Senator Carla Nelson. The overarching theme of the meeting on the part of the three superintendents who presented before the group was that of mental health and the increasing pressure on schools to be providers of mental health treatment for students. Statistics were shared, including more than half of students have experienced some sort of trauma. 1 in 4 students will suffer from long-term mental health problems. Children of color experience trauma at a rate twice that of their white peers. Children of color are 6 times more likely to go to jail rather than through mental health treatment.
there's a 20-year life expectancy difference for children who experience trauma, and students who suffer trauma are 5 times more likely to commit suicide. The panel discussed areas around funding education, including stabilizing of the funding, supporting schools in their increasing role in the realm of providing mental health services, and areas of diversity and inclusion in hiring practices and teaching, reducing mandates and enhancing local control, ensuring safe and modern school facilities as well. There was a lively question and answer session focused on what the legislature can do to address these weighty concerns in the 2020 legislative session.
Thank you, Ms. Stark. Lively was a good descriptor. And our final report out from Tigers United, our student group on campus, and the student representative this month is Coco Nolan. So if you could give us your report.
Okay, hello, Board Chair Delvo, Board Members, Superintendent Heil, thank you. My name is Coco Nolan, and I am a representative from the Tigers United group. Excuse me. So our last meeting for the updates of the Tiger United group, our planning is talking about how we can expand on mental health as well, planning and building a plan of action for pursuing the educational factor of mental health and how we can go about that with spreading the knowledge within our peers and as well as teachers. Discussing culture night rules as we did so last year, just more of like a more formal this year, and different things that students would like to do, either working backstage, passing out flyers, performing, and anything else in between. It was a very good outcome last year, so we want to pursue that and make it almost better if we could. Another thing with the student life that's happening, we just had Snow Week. Students dressed up according to the themes, which led to the Pet Fest and the Pink Out for Valentine's Day. Minnesota's Honor Society is still holding a shoe drive and donating pairs of shoes to foreign countries in need. They still are looking for shoes, and we'll take them. The last day to donate is the 28th of this month. ASU just went on a field trip to North Hennepin Community College and explored the accomplishments of the Black History Month. They're also focusing on mental health. The month of March 3rd, doing this T-shirt type of drive thing and broadcasting the mental health and trying to get as much people as a group and knowledgeable about mental health and how can we build as a character and as a person and helping and bettering each other while going through it together, because it is being with another that's going to help that knowledgeable. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
We still have a long way to go around mental health issues, but to have this being student-led in our schools, when I think back to when I was in school, this was not talked about at all. So we have a long way to go, but this is exciting that it's actually being incorporated and driven by students within our school population. Thank you.
Thank you.
And last but not least, important future school board dates. Fridley School Board onboarding special meeting, March 4th at 5:30 p.m. at the Fridley High School. The AMSD board meeting, March 6th at 7 a.m. at the Quora Education Center. And the Fridley Public Schools board meeting, March 17th, work session at 5:30, open forum at 7, and business meeting at 7:30, and that's at the Fridley Community Center. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Stark, seconded by Prueto. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved and meeting adjourned at 8:34.